tonight we're going to have this time with Dennis, and so I've invited him to share a bit first, and then bring your questions.
Sure.
And we will just let this evening flow with how Spirit leads us through the questions through our initial time together. So, Dennis, look forward to hearing what you have to share.
Well, I as I said a couple of minutes ago, Emerson's statement to his students was, "What has become more apparent to you since last we met?" And I think that that's a profound statement because it invites us to drill down and look back at what ground has been covered since last we met. For you guys, it was last week. For you and I, it's been 4 or 5 weeks. And so in that, I love the idea of consciousness as kind of like a percolating energy that you continue to grow and expand your consciousness week by week, day by day. As you read through particularly this book, the question that I'd ask you, did you come across material or ideas that were foreign to you or challenging to you, or did you find yourself nodding your head like this the whole time, just in agreement with it? Hopefully you bumped up against a few thoughts and ideas that challenged you to drill down a little deeper and look at what I've been presenting to you to make sure that it not only made sense with your mind and your head, but your heart as well. As I said in the first chapter, the head and heart have to work together if we're going to create a true experience of abundance in our lives. It's not just a head trip. It's not just a heart trip. We have to find equanimity and balance between our head and our heart. Meaning, I think that's one of the chapters that I think you guys, you read since last we talked, which was be passionate. Passion is such a huge part of enabling ourselves to embrace a larger idea of what is ours to do on the planet. Without passion, we can have great ideas if they're head ideas. Is the metaphor I use is passion is like the wind and the sail of a sailboat. The logic is the rudder, and you need to work both of those devices together in order to get where you want to go. So it's about finding equanimity. For me, that was one of the strongest, most clear aspects of this book was being sure that you're tapped into passion, because without passion, you ain't going anywhere. So, I would like to hear from you guys as to what chapters or which of the rules made the most sense to you, and which ones maybe you had the hardest time getting your arms around. Anybody?
I reserve the right to invite someone to speak.
Yes. Nada? Okay. Well, I think that the chapters that the way I laid out the book was the first 3 chapters established the principles, and the final 7 rules, if you will, gave us the principles to apply to get to where we want to go. For me, consciousness was another one of the strongest indicators of having the ability to embrace the concept of abundance. Consciousness is everything. And I know I'm talking to people who, your teacher, Reverend Kathy Ann, is a huge component to the teaching element of what consciousness is all about. So I know that I'm not assuming that you guys don't have already a good, clear concept of what consciousness is. The question is, have you really explored your consciousness to see what lies there that is perhaps standing between you and the abundance that you would rightfully like to claim as your own? Our beliefs are huge. If we can say, that's why it's important that we match our minds with our hearts. We can say we understand something, but if we don't really feel the passion behind what we understand or the embodiment of what we understand, it's for naught. Somebody raise your hand.
If I have, because that journey of understanding my consciousness was paying attention to the little things, or the Freudian slips, if you will. I was taking Science of Mind 1 way back in 1992, and Kathy Ann was actually teaching that class, and she said we were breaking into groups, and I raised my hand and said, "Who wants to be in the work harder for less group?" And it was one of those, did I really say that out loud? And it just opened the door for me to explore my consciousness, my belief system. It was a true concrete example of, I had a belief that I didn't know I even had and was running my life. And so I share that as an example of just paying attention.
Pay attention. Yeah, absolutely. The reality is that 90% of our beliefs that we hold, we're not even aware that we believe. And until we something rattles us, or rattles the cage, or causes us to examine and challenge our beliefs, they lay pretty much unchallenged, and life goes on the way it's always been. What's the old saying? If you always do what you always did, you're always going to get what you always got. Something has to change, and it has to be that consciousness leads that change.
Sprite, did you have a question? I saw your hand.
Sorry, I was just waving to Greer.
Okay.
She just came in.
You got to watch when you wave your hand around here.
Yeah, Lynann's got a question, though. Her hand's up. And please use the reaction button if you can. It's easy to find us.
So first of all, Dennis, thank you for joining us. I presume this being that you're calling in from Florida, so it's late.
It is late
for you tonight. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
Within the realm of consciousness, can you speak to just some insights that you've had about how to shift from thinking to believe, from just your point about head and heart, shift from thinking to believing to knowing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that believing and knowing are definitely two different things. Knowing is when you've embodied it to a point where you don't have to think about it. And you all know what embodiment is. I think we talked about this the first week I was with you. Embodiment, if you're a practitioner, it's not the words in your prayer that do the healing. It's not. Sorry about that. It's the feeling, emotional energy behind the words to receive them and embody them. That's where the healing happens. It's the same thing in understanding the ideas that you have about prosperity. You may have or abundance. You may have some fixed ideas in your mind, but the question is, do you really believe it in your heart? It's when you find a connection between those two avenues that you're onto something. Could you repeat your question in a different format or phrasing that would enable me to hear it again?
Sure. I'm just asking for your perspective and or insight on the act of shifting from thinking to believing to knowing.
Well, we think many different thoughts. ABC, awareness builds consciousness. That's I say that in one of the chapters. I think the second, third chapter. It's incredibly important to understand that our beliefs are, in consciousness. Let's back it up to consciousness. We can say we believe something, but it takes time to change your let's say you're 50 years old. You didn't grow the consciousness you have in 2 years. It took 50 years to develop the belief system you currently have. You're not going to change it overnight because it's very ensconced. But the very first key step is to become aware of your belief system. Awareness. Until you're aware of something, you can't really have the fortitude to challenge it, to find it and challenge it. So awareness is a huge part of that. And what's in one of the chapters I talk about the difference between mindfulness and awareness. Mindfulness is being present with your thoughts in the moment, right? Being present in your body in the moment. whereas awareness is what you focus on in that moment. And those two things have to come together. Do you recall in the scriptures the centurion that comes to Jesus and he said his servant was ill, and he said to Jesus, can you heal him? And what did Jesus say? Jesus said, do you believe I can heal him? And the centurion says, well, I believe, Lord, but help me with my unbelief. Help me with my unbelief. We say we believe a lot of things, but underneath it, there's layers of unbelief. And that's why we have to drill down below our beliefs and be willing to challenge them. Hold your beliefs up to the daylight and ask yourself, is this working for you or not? And if it's not, ask why. Who fathered the thoughts that created this consciousness that manifested as this belief? It's just that simple and that difficult. So it's about being present in the moment to a point where you can witness your own thoughts and feelings. And I think I mentioned this the first week we were together too. You realize what a profound, amazing gift it is that you can think a thought and then be self-aware enough to stand outside of the thought and look at it, to analyze it, to poke it and prod it and see, hold it up to the light and see where it came from. No other living creature has ability to be self-aware. And that's the choice that we make when we step into accountability for our consciousness as we become self-aware. We have to be able to identify the beliefs we have and see which ones are serving us and which ones are not serving us, and challenge the ones that are not serving us and replace them with new beliefs. Have you ever seen in a garden soil around a plant that was just rock hard? Of course you have. What happens when you water the plant? The water just runs off, doesn't it? But what would happen if you were to take a drop or a tincture of water and every few hours drop a couple drops into that soil over a period of days or weeks? What would happen? The water would not run off, it would sink in because it's slowly becoming saturated. That's like our belief systems. We don't learn a new belief overnight. It takes a long time to develop a new belief. And it also takes a long time to challenge or change our consciousness. You don't change it overnight. You change it over a period of time by being willing to be accountable for looking at your life, what's working and what's not, and challenge what's not working. And sometimes that's why it's being in a spiritual community is so wonderful, and having prayer partners and practitioners and ministers is that when you need support in that, you can ask for support. You don't have to do it alone. That's a really important aspect of spiritual communities. You have each other's backs, and that's really important. So does that speak at all to what you're asking?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you also for reinforcing that concept that you've certainly written about, but also just restated tonight about the difference between awareness and mindfulness,
Yeah.
and how those two come together. So appreciate it.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Yeah, one without the other is not going to work. You have to have them both. So let me ask you this question, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys this coming weekend. Saturday, I hope you'll join me for our mindfulness workshop. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's different than what we're going to be doing on Sunday. So the thing we're going to do on Saturday is really about drilling down and discovering your sense of purpose in life and how to actualize it in your daily life. A lot of people think that purpose is a point of arrival, that you arrive at some time in your life where purpose is manifesting. You finally arrived at what you're here to do. And that's not my belief. My belief is that your purpose lies before you every moment of every day, and it can be different every day. What is that purpose? It's to be the fullest, most open, full expression of the divine that we can be. Or that we are vessels for life through which it unfolds and expresses itself. So when we discover our sense of purpose, we realize it's not necessarily where we're going, it's how we get there. It's the mindfulness in which we get there, which is why one of the primary things we're going to focus on Saturday is mindfulness practices. How to be present in the moment and drill down and access the awareness of what's going on in the moment, that you can live a life that is actualizing your purpose on the planet. That's to be the most fully expressed human being you can be, living in a sacred awareness of the truth of who you are. So that's what we're going to do on Saturday, and it's experiential. So don't come to that class expecting just to be talked to for 3 hours. We're going to be doing a lot of things that will require some involvement and participation. So I hope you guys will join me for that. So, any other questions?
Elizabeth, you had your hand up. Did you? Nope, changed her mind. Okay.
Okay.
Hi, this is Cindy Clay. And so I've loved reading the book, and I have loved just reawakening my awareness of my purpose, and I think remembering that God lives as me, and for me, I will just say the challenge that I have experienced the last few years is just aging. So I,
Yeah.
I've had a hard time with all aspects of aging, and as it relates to living on purpose and living with courage and living,
Wow.
in service, and expecting that my life will continue to be abundantly blessed. I feel like I've had an abundantly blessed life, but I don't know. I would just love to hear your thoughts about.
Thank you for bringing that up, Cindy. That's a profound insight that you had. I did a presentation for a local group of senior citizens this last week. I did a workshop on the art of uncertainty, which I'll be speaking to you guys on Sunday morning about. And I would say the average age of the people in the room was probably well into their 70s. So, or better. So it was a more mature group, right? And what I discovered of course, that's my age too. I guess I'm 73. So it's about the peer group consciousness, I guess. But it's the awareness that I garnered through the conversations I had with those people was that they're more confident and more certain of their lives today than they were when they were 30 or 40 years old. Why? Well, they've developed consciousness to get to 70 or 80 years old, right? So I think that age we can look at it as a friend or an enemy. It's either a friend or an enemy. My brother says old age is a slow march into enemy territory. Nobody gets out alive. While that's fundamentally true, I think that we have a chance to, if we're conscious, there it is right there, and we're aware, we can witness ourselves aging in a way that we see. Remember, the one thing that we garner as we get older, if we're conscious, is wisdom. Wisdom is nothing more than an accumulation of past experiences brought to the present moment and applied to alter the future. And so the older that we are, if we're conscious and awake and alert and dialed in, we're able to tap into our wisdom bank. And that's why I really encourage elders to mentor their younger people. You have wisdom, you have experiences that are precious, they're irreplaceable, they're they're gold. Excuse me. Pollen count in Florida right now is really high. So I got allergies going. I apologize for that. So I don't know, Cindy, if that, the idea that there's a mistaken belief that as we age, we lose our value as human beings. I think and where does that come from? I think it comes from within ourselves. I mean, to some degree, seniors, people who are, as they age, are labeled unimportant. They're pushed aside. In some cultures, it's more so than others. Some cultures, they value and cherish the elders. Others, they don't. self-awareness as you age is again a blessing or a curse depending on your perspective. I wish that my body today felt the way it did when I was 30 years old, but it doesn't. But guess what? My mind feels much better. I don't have the angst. I don't have the a lot of the fears I had back then. And how did that happen? It happened one day at a time, from there to here. Wherever you are on the spectrum, age spectrum, realize, there's more to do, or you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here at all. So I don't know what else I can say, Cindy, about age other than don't be embarrassed or shy about it. Embrace it, love it, dance
It's
with
kind
it.
of hard to hide it. So
And a lot of
Yeah.
people, our culture has made getting old wrong. We have obsessions with cosmetic surgery and all things that people want to retain their youthful look. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all if it's coming from a healthy mindset. But too often we think that getting old is a sign of weakness or a sign of losing ground. And I think it's just really just the opposite of than that. If we're conscious enough to see ourselves as evolving as we mature. Yeah. And I think that's one of the secrets, is to know that you're not the same person you were when you were 30 years old. You're a different person today. And the reason you are is because of the experiences you had. Let's face it, we've all probably had experiences growing up that would prefer that we didn't have. And yet the bigger question is, would you really want to not have those experiences because they help contribute to make you who you are today? So,
yeah, thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else? There certainly has to be one of the 10 rules that in this book that either bumped up against you in a positive way or a challenging way. I'd love to hear how it affected you, that in a way that it caused you to drill down deeper and go and be able to embrace the concept of abundance that you didn't have 5 weeks ago before you started the class.
I have a thought. I don't know if it's exactly a question, although it might be. And I have to say, what a glorious talk you gave in the first week. I found it so extraordinary. And so everything everyone else was saying is very similar to an event that I've had happen in my life about abundance and aging, actually. So maybe it's just, I guess, how do you keep releasing what's in the way? I suppose as much as, as one can do that. I got a raise in my job, which was wonderful. And then I also got a promotion, but I've been working, I'm a college teacher, so I've been working online. And now they want me to go back to the college. And I'm like, really? Go into the college? I can't just stay at home? That's fine. I know there's a joke in there somewhere, but yeah, but being 55, I'm noticing too that I am having some issues. And so I came up against all these fears around, can I still do this? Should I even still do this? Should I try and do this? Because I've had a lot of health issues. But I'm really working on that, God still has plans for me in a way, and the abundance that maybe I still could. And I had a very traumatic backstory, right? So I'm working on healing that maybe I really can have abundance in my life. And what does it mean? And so I just want you to know how much it meant to me to have your wonderful speech in the first week that we talked, because I think it really set me on a really good path. So I
Nice.
just really appreciate it.
Good. By the way, thank you. You have abundance in your life. We all have abundance in our lives. We can't not. The question is it an abundance of more of what you want or more of what you don't want?
Oh my God, that's so beautiful the way you said that. Yes, absolutely.
I mean, our cups overflow, and dang, it's so important. Consciousness prevails. That's probably the most important chapter in the entire book. That and clarifying the difference between prosperity and abundance, abundance being cause, prosperity being the exquisite effect of that. But yeah, I could go on with that one. So good one. How are you guys breathing? I'm going to be asking you that this next weekend when I see you. How are you breathing? I think that, is to me, one of the key elements of my teaching and my own growth has been to be aware of how important to breathe consciously is when it comes to being present in the moment, which is, you have to understand something. The present moment is your point of power. You have absolutely no power yesterday or tomorrow. Your point of power is in this moment. And it's, if you're conscious and aware of your breath as you breathe, it can tether you to the present moment to a degree that allows you to become the silent witness to your own experience in the moment. How are you breathing? Don't just breathe in and out, breathe consciously. And the mantra I use, and we'll use this in our workshop on Saturday, is on my in-breath, I inhale, and very slowly I say to myself, God is. It's a two-step treatment. And on the out breath, I go, I am. So it's God is, I am. Just a simple mantra. God is, I am. And if you want to complete the words, as God is all there is, first step of treatment. I am one with it, second step of treatment. That's really, in my opinion, unification is the key, oneness. I continue to say in all my writings, there's only one of us here. But very few of us are aware of that. There's only one of us here. And to the degree that we can become aware that we are unique, individualized aspects of the one, we're missing a great part of the joy of being present on this planet. And that's why taking time daily to be alone, I really encourage you, if you're in a place where you have lots of nature around you, woods and things like that, I suspect, parks and whatnot, where you could really take some time and be outside alone and just let the environment embrace you and remind you that you're part of something larger than yourself. That's probably one of the biggest issues that causes a lack of affirmative abundance in our lives, is that we feel separate and apart from life. And there's so many ways that we are taught to think that way when we're young, that it's a key practice to come back to the center and anchor ourselves in that sense of oneness with life. I know these are not different or challenging concepts for you, because I know you've been taught those things already. I guess my question is, are you practicing them? That's the key. Are you practicing? Ernest Holmes at one point, is it him or Barker, said, realization without application is hallucination. Think about that.
That is so deep. Could you explain that better?
Realization without application is a hallucination. In other words, you can have divine ahas all day long. But until you learn to apply them in your life in that moment, in a way that it changes the direction of your life, you may as well just go off in the corner and eat magic mushrooms. It's a hallucination. To have and a lot of people, they have the realizations, but they don't have the capability, or they don't know how to actualize it and bring it into application. So, it's, in order to do that, you have to get out of your head, as Holmes says, treat, and move your feet. There's a two-step process to it. And I guess one of the things I would encourage you to think about is, how much are you realizing and how much are you applying of the things you're realizing to a place where you can see demonstrable results in your life? That's the key. You have to have, if you have no measurable results, it's for naught. That's why it's so important to do journaling, to I think that journaling is a great tool to use to track your evolution of your consciousness. Because it helps you see what's in your consciousness. Do you guys journal at all?
Mhm.
Okay, good. Good. So anybody else? I don't know, did that, Cheryl, did that give you enough of a response to what you're referring to?
Oh, no, it was beautiful. And yes, I don't breathe very well. So that's I have terrible anxiety and I can't breathe. I get woozy. It's awful.
And
So
you know why that is? What-
no,
What's the cause, what's the cause of all anxiety?
uncertainty?
Yeah,
Being
fear.
anxious, I don't know.
Anxiety is your mind is out in front of you, or it's dragging something from behind you.
That's probably the dragging thing. Yeah.
Well, anxiety is caused by fear of what's going to happen in the next moment or next year or next day.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
Yeah, and don't miss Sunday morning thing. I'm be talking about the art of uncertainty, that's exactly what that talk is about.
That's beautiful. I wish I could come to your wonderful lectures, but I'm in Canada. So
It'll be on. I think it'll be streamed. The service will be streamed.
the
So
service will be, yes.
good. So since I've been talking about breathing, how are you breathing? All of you. Are you breathing consciously, intentionally? Are you breathing deeply? Are you allowing yourself to track your breaths and anchor you in the moment? No, most of us don't. You see this what I have here? This is an rubber band on my wrist. Can you see that? I'm gonna be talking about this when I'm up there in the afternoon class for the Art of Abundance. This the rubber band on my wrist it can be a different tool for everybody, but for me, it's a mindfulness practice. A couple of weeks ago, I found myself watching television, the 6 o'clock news, and I talk about complaining, telling the same story over and over and over. I wasn't aware of how much I was talking to the TV set. You know what I mean by that? By talking to the TV set, all the politicians and all the stuff that's going on. My wife gets up, she goes in the other room, she comes back, she gives me this rubber band. She says, "Here's your rubber band, honey." It's an old practice that we use, which is when you start finding yourself, catching yourself, focusing on what you don't want more of, snap the rubber band. And after a while, you get a welt on your wrist, but you'll also have a shift in consciousness because you won't continue to complain about things that you don't like. Focus on what you want to grow, not what you don't want more of. And if you can't watch the 6 o'clock news and find something productive with it, don't watch it. That's my takeaway for that is that don't allow anything or anybody to put stuff in your head that is counterproductive to your wholeness. So,
Pamela's got a question.
hey, Pamela.
Hi, thank you for being here and thank you for having us.
Yes.
You were talking about breathing. This is about breathing. I often find myself sleeping in bed at night, breathing so shallowly that sometimes I wake up. I like to sleep on my stomach. It's just wherever that came from, out of birth or whatever. And I actually wake up and then I realize, not really breathing as deeply as I should. Do you have any thoughts about that linking with any nighttime processes that you're going through in your deep sleep state? Or it's just the way you are?
Well, that's a fair question too. These are good questions. My mantra when I go to sleep, and I do have a mantra right before I go to sleep. I lay back, I lay flat on my bed, put my arms down on my side. I do my breathing, and it is the same in breath. God is, I am, and with each time I do that mantra to myself, I find myself letting go, doing a muscle scan and going through my body and checking all the tensions wherever they might be. By the time I get down to my toes, I'm asleep. And do I wake up during the night once in a while? Sure I do. Absolutely. I mean, who doesn't? I guess the big question is, can you get back to sleep as quickly as you went to sleep the first time? For me, yes. It's for most of the time, I get back to sleep as easily as I did when I first got into bed using that mantra. So it's a good mantra to use. As far as sleeping goes, it's about surrender. I was thinking about writing a book called The Art of Surrender. Because, and a lot of people think of that as giving up. I'm not talking about giving up. I'm talking about giving up. Meaning that at night we take our problems to bed with us too often. And even if we're not consciously aware of it, that's what we're doing. And so develop some sort of a process to give it up, to turn it over. Without being spiritually cavalier about it, there's very few things that are worth carrying with you into deep sleep. Very few things. So I don't know
Body
if that-
scan. Thank you.
yeah. Start at the top of your head. With each breath, continue to go down your body, down your arms, your feet, your stomach, your groin, your knees, your toes, and continue to breathe through your entire body. And with each out breath, intentionally feel yourself surrendering, letting go. So I'm ready for bed now. So you tonight, I think that you guys, for the last class, you're reviewing the last 3 chapters of the book, the last 3, okay, which are be courageous, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And be of service,
Catalyst for good.
and a catalyst for good, right? I would ask you this: which of those 3 rises to the top of each of you? Your consciousness is the one that is the one where either you need the most work or it's the most natural for you.
Carol.
Would you repeat those 3 things?
Yeah, I don't have the book in front of me. I believe Go ahead.
I'll go ahead, Dennis. I've got it. The last 3 chapters are be of service, be courageous, and be a catalyst for good.
right. A lot of people confuse be of service and be a catalyst for good but they're 2 separate things. I mean, you can serve in many different capacities. To be a catalyst for good is almost an etheric thing as well as an action thing. It's a consciousness you carry with you. Courageous, be courageous and be willing to risk, fail, and risk again is huge. A lot of people fail and they give up. Don't do that. You're using universal principles that will support you if you continue to keep on keeping on with what your intention is. Don't give up. Being a catalyst for good is the ripple effect that we have the ability to initiate wherever we are, whatever we're doing. I have a grandson who's 28 years old, and he's a physical trainer, and he's just starting a new business. So I'm doing some mentoring with him online, and it just thrills me no end to see his mindset at that age. Maybe because he's my grandson, I don't know. That he is really clear that he's not doing this just for the money. He's doing it because it's a way for him to make the world a better place, one person at a time. That's being a catalyst for good. That's different than serving. Serving is, a very important part of this process, such as I think in the process of serving, you can also initiate being a catalyst for good. But they're 2 separate concepts in the chat, which is why they're in 2 separate chapters. Anybody in this on this call have any challenges with finding the ability to be courageous and making a change in your lives, or coming to the edge of your uncertainties and leaning over? Boy, it's a quiet group tonight.
Well, I know I'm scared all the time, but I think I'm pretty courageous at the same time, because of course, courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the going despite the fear.
That's right.
So just because there's so much change happening in my life, I'm evolving. I'm planning on evolving. I want to very much be prophet-like. So I think I'm going that way. So so I think it's been very, very good for me that way. Although I wish it was easier, you know. But I guess it isn't. You know, the path is what it is.
It's simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah, that's what I would say. That's what I would say. So it's worth it though. Absolutely worth it. You know.
I think that for me personally, for my entire adult life, being courageous was not an issue for me. And it wasn't that I was consciously courageous. I was just willing to continue to try different things to see what I could succeed at. You know, it wasn't about hopping around from one thing to another, but I had like 4 different careers in my life, and I was tremendously successful at all of them. And why? Because I had a consciousness of success, irrespective of what I was doing. And I was all continually making myself come to the edge of what I thought I could do and leaning over and proving to the world I could do it, that and more. And it's not just proving to the world, it's proving to myself too.
Carol has a question.
Or comment. I turned 80 this year, and when I'm hearing that Cheryl is 50 something, I think, oh my God, that's so young. But I remember times when I kept thinking, well, I'm too old to do this or that. I kept thinking like 29 and no children, no husband. I was supposed to have done that before I was 30. And I had this real big crisis about that. At 40, I had cancer. I thought, well, I might be dead any day now, and I should not try to do anything new. At 64, I forget why, but I retired and I wasn't sure I could make it on Social Security and stuff. I keep bumping into myself, and then having the courage to carry on, to find support, like finding CSL. I wish I'd found it earlier. I was close to 60 when I found it, but I stepped forward. I took a chance. I took personal growth seminars. I reached out. I got, I did prayer. At 69, I got married for the first time because I had the courage to look for a husband. I went on Match. I also had a Sangha, and I was getting support from people there. When I wanted to give up, I kept, I'd say, okay, I'll keep going. I'll take the next step. I'm bumping into it a bit now at 80 because there are new challenges at this age. But see this pretty place behind me? This is my house. I had the courage to paint my walls in this color, and, because it makes me happy. And what makes me happy now is reaching out to other people and giving them an opportunity to talk about what's troubling them. And I'm helping people move forward in their lives just with God, if you will, putting somebody in my presence. It's not that I go out on the street and say, who can I help today? it's circumstances that bring me in contact with someone who can benefit from my wisdom. I have to continually generate the courage to start a conversation, to reach out to somebody, to say hello, to ask, are you okay? And I find a lot of satisfaction in that. I'm not looking for career success or anything, but I still have talents and abilities that I can bring. And I do that by participating at the Center for Spiritual Living, by greeting people. I love that.
See, Carol, to me, you've done a beautiful job of threading together all three of these chapters. Be courageous, be of service, and be a catalyst for good. What you just talked about is threading all three of those things together. And I would say that you're a great example of what true abundance looks like in demonstration mode, because you've lived a life and you've had your challenges, but you've transcended them to a point where you're continually, from what I heard you say, looking to how you can impact other human beings, which is a huge thing. That's why I put that the last chapter, because I think it's a very etheric idea, but it's also what kind of like kicks the ball through the goalpost, is of an abundance consciousness, is realizing that we cannot, the universe does not designate us to prosper without supporting others and prospering as well. And you do that by being a stimulus for good in the world. Yeah, good. Thank you.
The other thing I'd like to say is there's a book called Breath.
Mhm.
Breath talks about the importance of mindfulness and deep breathing, and it emphasizes breathing through your nose rather than your mouth.
Mhm.
You have trouble at night with sleep, and maybe because you're somewhat apneic, you stop breathing deeply in your sleep, which I think triggers fearful thoughts in your mind and maybe bad dreams.
Mhm.
And
Oh, I never thought about it. I
the
remember doing that ever since I was a small child. I'm just like, whoa, how long did I hold? I just realized when I was a tiny kid, wow, I didn't even realize I was holding my breath. So maybe, maybe I was one of those, this is kind of a sick joke, but crib death babies who actually lived. I don't know.
Well, to me, that's an invitation to practice mindful breathing during the day as much as you can. I mean, literally practice it. Put the rubber band on your wrist, and every time you catch yourself not breathing consciously and deeply, snap the rubber band. After a couple of hours, you'll be breathing deeply and consciously, and that may be what you need to do to train yourself to do that during the day. So when you do hit the sack, you will go into that sleep mode, and breathing will be more of a natural process for you too.
Sounds good. It's really funny. I don't even snore. Which
oh,
usually if you have apnea, you snore or try to grasp.
I thought I didn't snore until I got married.
No, I don't.
Oh God, that's funny.
There's a trick in the book. There's this medical tape, silk tape, we used to call it. I'm a nurse. Just a little bit on your lips can keep your lips closed and keep you breathing through your mouth, and your nose instead of your mouth. Just that little trick could help if you have a tendency to fall asleep with your mouth open.
Yeah, and you wake up with dry mouth that way too. Okay, good. Thank you. Anybody else have any thoughts regarding these last three chapters as to which of the three impacted you the most, or was the easiest for you to get your arms around? I mean, the whole idea of being of service, most people, I think, maybe in New Thought and Science Mind, it comes more natural. But I think for the most part, we live in a mindset. In one of the chapters, I talk about the WIFM consciousness. What's in it for me? WIIFM. What's in it for me? Until we evolve to a point where we realize it's what's in it from me. And that's when we turn our lives around and begin to extend ourselves, which is a natural part of the flow of life. We can't just receive, we have to give as well. Ask yourself on a daily basis, what's in it for me today? With each person that stands in front of you during the day, whether it's a person in the grocery store line or your child or your grandchild or your neighbor, ask yourself when you're in that conversation, how may I serve this person in this moment? What's in it from me? Not what too often in our conversations, we're thinking ahead of the conversation where our minds are already engaged in what we're going to say next. To stand witness with somebody, just be with them and ask the question silently to yourself, how may I serve you in this moment? You'd be amazed at what might show up in your mind and your heart and words and actions and deeds.
Dennis, I want to just compliment what you said with Carol about these three together, and how what Carol was sharing was a bunch of a lot of small steps. And sometimes I think we get the idea that to be a catalyst for good, we got to do something big, or to be of service, we need to, go build a tiny house. When those are great.
Yeah.
But what Carol does every Sunday at church is truly is a catalyst for good. The way she greets, to be in the presence. And when we do that consciously, put these three together, those little things make big ripples. We just don't get to see them necessarily.
And being courageous part can come into, when you ask yourself, what can you do today that you didn't do yesterday to serve or to be that ripple effect? If you just ask yourself that question, you'd be amazed at what shows up as a stimulus for you. Good. So how are you guys breathing? Besides in and out.
Actually, I did have a comment about breathing, if no one minds. I love what you guys said about it. It's also true that if you've had a really traumatic life, you tend to hold your breath because it's, that's just a natural part of trauma. And so I know that that's been something that I've struggled with an awful lot. Like, you don't even know you're not breathing. Like you were saying, you don't even know. I was in my naturopath's office and I wasn't breathing. And she's like, why aren't you breathing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm breathing. She's like, you're not breathing. So it really does affect you, of course, in your anxiety. And if you have like repeated sinus infections and all of that stuff, probably has a, science of mind message to tell you too, like the physical problems, so that it literally impairs your breathing. So it is something to really, I guess, think about. I know I'm working on healing that. I'm working on healing on breathing out of my nose and stuff. But yeah, it probably does a bigger effect than one even knows, really.
It sounds, thank you. It sounds curious to say practice breathing. And if you dedicate yourself to it, you'll be amazed at how quickly you can teach yourself to breathe consciously and intentionally, deeply. Thich Nhat Hanh, in his book, The Ways of the Buddha, talks about, we have designated purposes in every room in our home. We have a room where we wash ourselves and take a shower. It's called a bathroom. We have a room in the house that we call the kitchen, where we feed ourselves, right? We may have a different room where we entertain ourselves. But he said, how about creating a room in your home for breathing? So when you go into that room, that you're dedicating yourself to mindful breathing. And if you don't have a room, maybe make it a certain chair in a room that you can sit in. But when you sit in that chair, the discipline is, okay, I'm going to consciously breathe for 5 minutes. I'm not saying meditate, but consciously breathe. God is, I am, or whatever mantra works for you. One of the mantras that Thich Nhat Hanh offers is, I breathe in, and I'm at peace. I breathe out and I smile. Peace, smile. It's just that simple, but it's the routine and the commitment. There's the C word again. To staying on top of what you're doing for a long enough period of time where it's getting imprinted in your mind as a discipline for you. So what have you been doing for the last 3 weeks as far as the class, covering the class materials go? I'm just curious if you want to get on with that at this point.
Well, yeah, each week we've been covering a couple of the chapters in
Okay.
discussions in small groups, and so that's what we would be doing for the rest of the night.
Well, why don't I scoot out of here then and let you guys get back to it. I'm really honored and pleased and gratified that you have embraced this book as your book for the month, and that I look forward to connecting with you guys next week, either Saturday or Sunday. And I don't, the weather is up there pretty chilly right now.
Oh, yeah. Pretty
Well,
cool.
compared to Florida, everywhere's
Yeah.
chilly.
Yeah, it's 80 degrees out just about every day here right now. It's beautiful weather. So
50.
I'll be bringing my heavy coat and whatnot. But I really hope you guys consider joining me for Saturday for the mindfulness, the power of practicing presence, which is really it's a workshop about learning how to bring yourself into the present moment, because that's where life is waiting for you to bestow its gifts upon you. You cannot do that if you're not present in the moment. You have to be present in the moment to receive the gifts. And then what you do with them is the other side of the prosperity element, how you use them and release them and spend them, share them. So, and then Sunday morning, I'll be speaking on my book, The Art of Uncertainty. And if you are at any place in your life where you're kind of on that metaphoric ledge, the edge of not knowing what to do or how to do it or when to do it, come to this Sunday service. And then the workshop Sunday afternoon on the Art of Abundance. I developed a worksheet that I'm going to pass out to you, that we're going to drill down and go through each of the 10 rules for a prosperous life and see how they are fitting into our lives in real time. Real time means realization and application. So both. Okay. So you guys are great. I look forward to seeing you Saturday and Sunday, and I appreciate the opportunity to come and be with you and to share these ideas. And again, I'm really grateful that you have responded to the book. By the way, if you really enjoyed the book, I'd be honored if you go to Amazon and post a review on it. Now, that's part of the ripple effect. If it made a difference for you, then extend that to others just by posting it on Amazon and share it with your communities in a way that you get the word out there. I really do believe that we're here to know that when we leave the planet, it's a better place than we got here. That's one of the ways we do it, is by sharing what is working for us. You have a beautiful spiritual community. You got great spiritual leaders, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with you guys this coming week. Okay.
Ready.